So do you usually give a couple of people?
Hi guys, hi, hello. I hope you're doing fine. Welcome to our next session of Dev Talks, and today we have someone interesting with us here. We have someone who is a HR professional with 7 years of experience on talent acquisition and training and development, and her sole aim is motivating members to deliver their maximum. And that was something I told, which was completely scripted. I'll go off script now and welcome you guys and let her introduce herself. Welcome on screen. I welcome on screen, Miss Andrea.
So much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And yeah, if we want to go ahead and get started with the topic, I'll introduce myself and tell you a little bit more about what we'll be chatting today.
Sounds good, ma'am.
Can you guys see my slides? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so just to tell you a little bit about myself, you already probably saw it in the poster, but well, I'm originally from Costa Rica. I'm currently in France doing my MBA and at Grenoble École de Management in the Alps. And a little bit about my background. I did my bachelor's in human services and international affairs from Northeastern University in Boston in the US. And then, like I said, right now I'm doing my master's in France. Right after college in the US, I worked for 3 years in training and development at a nonprofit organization in microfinance headquartered in Boston called Acción. And then right after that, I moved back home to Costa Rica and I worked for Amazon for 4 years in recruiting like all types of different roles from entry level to mid manager to executive level, mainly in customer service, operations, and several other areas. And then right after that, I came to France. When I was in college, I also was very active. So I had internships in the governor's office in Massachusetts. In Senegal, I went to do a human rights internship. I was also a teaching assistant and I volunteered a lot. So let's get on with the topic on how to build your resume. And this is the format that we're going to do today. So we're going to talk a little bit about formatting. Then we'll move on to content, which is the most important. And then we'll do Q&A. So I was thinking we do like 30 minutes and 30 minutes, just so you guys have enough time to ask your questions and get all your doubts resolved. If there is something that I can help you with, then feel free to ask. I'm not able to see the chat right now, so let's leave the questions for the end, but feel free to add them there, and I'm sure the moderators will help me ask them at the end. Okay, so formatting. It is recommended that your CV is 1 page. Recruiters technically have very little time to review your resumes, and the more concise, the better. The rule of thumb is that for every 10 years of experience, you have 1 page. It should be consistently formatted throughout. Your punctuation, your font style, your font size, your grammar, and your dates, like everything should be consistent. If you have different sections, like this should look the same. And I'm going to show you some examples in a little bit. It's very important to always check your spelling and grammar. You have no idea how many resumes I see that have either spelling mistakes or grammar mistakes. And although some recruiters might not see this as a big deal, some actually do, and you could be rejected merely on this item. Also, for example, if the position is looking for people to be detail oriented, then they might just say, okay, this person clearly is not detail oriented because they didn't even check the resume. So it's very important for you to check it. recheck it, have multiple people check it for you, because when you've stared at the same document for numerous times, sometimes you can miss things. In terms of the structure, it's important to have a header, then move on to either the education section or the work section, and then have some extra sections that we will discuss. In the header, it's very important to have your legal name, your email, your phone number with your area code, your location, and I don't mean your specific house address, but mainly just your city and country if you're applying for like a job, for example, internationally, or if you're just applying inside your country, then you can just put your city and your state. And then also your LinkedIn URL is important too. There is no need to put your date of birth, whether you're married or not, where you were born, your social security number from your country. None of those things are important unless it's a country specific format that you need to put, or the job for some reason requires it. But these things can sometimes be used for discrimination, so don't it's not necessary to put. These details are more than enough. And sometimes when you're applying for jobs, they will ask for some of the details in the application, so it's not necessary for you to add them to your resume. Now, moving on to the sections. If you are a recent student, then put your education section on top, right after your header. If you are a recent graduate or and have enough work experience or enough experiences to put, then you can put your work experience on top and then your education. Or if you also have very little experience, you can put your education on top as well. For professionals, it's important to always put your experience on top because this is the most important aspect. In terms of design, it's very important to have a clean design. It should be attractive, it should stand out, it should have a visible name. You want recruiters to remember you, but definitely stay away from very fancy designs. So the most important aspect is the content. It's nice to have some elements stand out, for example, your name, maybe the sections. This makes the CV easier to read. But an ideal resume will be very clean, and it'll be one which requires little effort to read and decipher. Recruiters want their lives to be as easy as possible since they have so many resumes to review. So the easier it is and the cleaner it is, the better. And I have some examples for you of headers, and then we'll see an example of the actual resume. So these are some headers where you can see, the name stands out, it's big, some people put color in them. You can put, for example, if you already have some experience and you want to work in IT, then for example, this person, they put that they're an IT project manager. Some of these have like the entire address, but like I said, that is not actually necessary. You can also put, if you're looking for a specific internship, let's say you're looking for a business development internship, you can put right underneath your name or your header, business development internship. So it also helps if, for example, you don't have a clear resume, and it'll help the recruiter know what type of position you are looking for. So these are just some examples. We'll look at some more after. Now, moving on to content, and this is the most important part. In terms of your education, it's important to put only your post-secondary education. However, if you are a recent graduate, you can add your high school information if it's relevant, or for example, if you have graduated with honors and have relevant information that you think would be useful for the recruiter or the company, then feel free to put it. Once you develop more experience, you can feel free to leave your high school information out. For the education section formats, it's you put the university name, the type of diploma or degree you're getting, if it's a bachelor's, if it's a master's, what is your major or your specialization. For example, computer science, mechanical engineering, etc. The dates you attended. If you're a recent graduate, it's good to put the month and the year. However, once you've already gathered enough experience, it's okay to put just the years. If you have any academic recognition, if you graduated with honors, then, or if you want to put your GPA, your marks, you can definitely add that, especially if you are a recent graduate or still a student. Once you gather more experience, then this is not necessary, as you will see that people will not really focus on these things, but they will focus more on your actual experience. The location is good. What city or state you did your education, and the country if you're applying internationally. If not, you can just put the city and the state. And certifications is important to put if you've already completed them. So you'll put the year where you received it from. There's no need, one important aspect is that there's no need to list universities that you did not complete a degree from, or universities that you actually transferred from. If you are currently a student, then obviously list your education, and then you can just put the month and year that you started, and then you put ongoing or to present time. And for universities that you're currently in, then definitely put your anticipated graduation date. Moving on to the work experience. For the section, you will put the company name and location. Put the most well-known name of the company. For example, if it was Amazon, you're not going to put Amazon.com, just put Amazon, that's okay. Same, let's say for Tesla, you're not going to put Tesla, comma, Inc., you just put Tesla. You'll put where that was, the city and country if it's important, or just the city and state, for example. You'll move on to your official job title, the dates that you worked there, and it'll be in this format. So the month and the year that you started, and then the month and the year that you finished there. Or if you're still there, then you put currently, presently to present. It is very, very important. I've mentioned this several times, but to be consistent with your formatting. So if you are going to list the month, the entire month, then be consistent throughout. Put, January through December 2018, for example. Don't put in one area January through December 2018, and then in the other job you're gonna put, JAN through APR 2019 for something else. Like, either use the abbreviated months or use the full month. You can really decide. I always think that the abbreviated form is better, just because it's shorter and it'll give you more space for you guys to write other things. For the actual information that you're going to write, it's very important to write between 3 and 5 lines. For them to be also very detailed and concise is important. 4 would be the ideal number. And in this area, you're going to write what exactly you did, why you did it, and then the impacts of that task. In terms of the way you write it, you need for the recruiter to be able to understand what it is that you did in that position, and why that bullet, if you're going to do in bullet points, is important, or why that task that you did is important. Why is it important for the job you're applying to? And if you have any outcomes from that. So if it's a project you led, then what was the outcome of the project? Going back to the company, one little aspect that I forgot is, if you worked for a small company that might not be very known, you can put right underneath the company a short line of what the company does, so people can know the company and what it did, especially if you work for a company that isn't well known, or if it's a small company, let's say in like a different city that you're actually applying to. In the statements for each position, you need to be as detailed as possible. And for example, do not write generic comments. So one example would be a very generic comment would be, input data into database. This is very generic and it doesn't really tell the recruiter anything. So what type of data did you input? What type of database did you input? So be specific, and this could be better. It could be improved if you say, for example, perform data entry of hard copy financial statements into Salesforce Sales Cloud. So this already tells the recruiter what type of data you did, what type of tool you used. So, okay, great, you're familiar with Salesforce Cloud. And it just makes your bullet point more impactful. There are also a couple of formats that you can use to write this. Either you write your job description in paragraph form or you do it in bullet form. I prefer bullets because they are simpler to read than actual paragraphs, but that is a matter of personal choice. So you can pick bullets or you can pick paragraph. That is up to you. I do think bullets are easier and better. For the information that you're writing, also it's essential for you to add data. Use numbers and percentages to like showcase the quantified impact of your tasks. So if you are going to write, increased revenue of the company, that doesn't really tell much. You can change that to increase revenue by 15% in 6 months, or increase revenue by 15% by end of year. So be detailed. And the last point of this section is definitely to tailor your resume to the specific position you're applying to. This is a little harder to do if you have less experience, for example, and you don't have as much to write. However, as you acquire more experience, it's important to select the bullet points, select what you're going to say with the job description that you're actually applying to. So what will be the most impactful bullets that I can write for this to be a relevant resume for the recruiter, for this to be for the company and recruiter to see that I would be a good fit for their company. Do not list everything you've done. Like I said, obviously in every position you have a lot of tasks. You do not have to list them here. Do not list every single task. Only list the most important tasks and the most relevant tasks for the position you are applying to. If you don't have a lot of work experience, you can also put your internship experience or part-time job experience that you have here. These are important to list if you don't have as much experience, but also even though they might not be as relevant for the position you're applying to, you are able to highlight other skills with these experiences. For example, you could be highlighting your leadership skills, your communication skills, customer service, teamwork, and those are important skills to have. So it doesn't matter if your position does not have a lot to do with the job, but as long as it's highlighting skills that are required for this position, then it'll be important for you to list them. Here I have just a couple of examples of the education portion. Very simple, the university, like I said, location, the degree, the years. And then if you look at the experience, this person wrote a little bit about what the company does. For people, this person is actually outside of India, so it makes sense that they would write what the company does, because people outside of India might not know, or even people in India might not know what that company does. And then if you can see the bullets, like 4 bullets, you can just quickly see that they used your percentages, they were specific, and you can see also that in terms of verbs, since this person the positions were in the past, all the verbs are in the past. They are action verbs, developed, led, maintained, increased, collaborated. So that's also very important to do. And in terms of the formatting, it's very good formatting. You see that the bullets all don't have bullet points at the end. You see that the dates are equally formatted. This person actually added how many years their experience is, and this is also a very good tip. Recruiters have very little time, like I said, so if you make their lives easier, it'll be better. So instead of the recruiter having to count every single month and being like, okay, how many months did this person work? They already did it for them, 4 years, 2 years, and it's very easy to see. Okay, so moving on to the other sections that are important to have in your resume, especially if you are a student or a recent graduate, is that you can add, projects, activities, volunteering, and skills, which are crucial to add. In terms of projects, you can highlight, educational projects or personal ones that you've done. Just make sure that they are relevant for the job you're applying to, or that they highlight skills that you want the recruiter to know. So this could also highlight leadership, communication, organization, etc. But also follow the same rules that you would for the work experience. So, the same type of format, the same bullets, make them impactful, uh, quantify them if possible. If you have a lot of projects, just select the ones that are relevant. And if you need some space, then for the projects, you are able to just put a couple of lines. You don't have to do them as long as your work experience. For other types of activities or volunteering, for example, if you were involved in activities in your university or high school, that's also good because it could highlight some skills. But also, it's also a point for the recruiter to connect with you. So let's say you were a tutor for high school students. In your city. So that's something that you could put, and that not only does it highlight leadership, but also if the recruiter was also a tutor for students in high school, then that's something that they can connect with, and that's something that you want also the recruiters to do, to connect with you, because that's something that they will remember you for. Moving on to skills, the most important skills to highlight are the technical ones, and you can also in this section highlight technical tools that you've used or that you are familiar with, and your languages. Your soft skills are less important to list them because it's very easy for you to just list soft skills, but it's not easy to measure. You can just list a skill and it's impossible for the recruiter to know whether you actually have it or not. So these are less important to highlight, but you can otherwise highlight them throughout your work experience or activities. So for example, if you want to highlight that you have organization, then you would write a bullet point under your some sort of activity or work experience where you say, organized team meetings for leadership team on a weekly basis, where I took notes and organize all logistics, something like that. So that is better than just listing at the bottom of your resume organization, because that is something that they actually can be measured, like you really did that, and it's better for the recruiter to see that you have that soft skill through your experience rather than just a list of soft skills. Same with communication, same with collaboration. Add bullet points so you can highlight those things. The recruiters are skilled enough to be able to see those skills reflected from the work experience that you've highlighted. And here I have some examples, as you can see on the right, for projects. That's just like one type of project where they wrote, what they did and the date. And then for leadership and activities, this is another example of how they listed what they did. And for the skills, this person just listed, their languages and their tools and technical skills that they have. You can separate them and put, languages in one line and then technical skills in another line. For languages, it's important for you to list your level of fluency. So, for example, if it is your native language, then you put native. If it's not your native language, but you're fluent, you just put fluent. And then the other designations would be advanced, intermediate, or beginner. And then here I just put an example of a very clean resume for you guys to see. It's not fancy like you can see, but it's very easy to read. He has highlighted the sections very clearly. It's very easy to read. Okay, skills. Okay, certifications. Okay, projects. He put some stuff in color, which makes it appealing, and you will most likely remember this person's resume because it's very easy to read and very easy on the eyes. And then before moving to the Q&A parts, some things to remember. I know this was really quick, guys, so feel free to ask questions if there was something that wasn't clear or you want more detail at the end. Things to remember with your resume. You need to try to tell a story. So show who you are through your resume. And, in every work experience or activity experience or project, you need to show I did XYZ to achieve XYZ. So be clear, like why that is important. If you don't have a good idea of how to write what you did or how to make what you did, clear for somebody that isn't in where you are or has done what you did, then you can go online and look at professionals doing what you're doing and see how they list their stuff. Go on LinkedIn and look at LinkedIn profiles. Get some inspiration from their profiles for you to write your own. And then once you have a really good draft of your resume, ask a friend to describe what you do and what makes you good at it. If they can actually do it, then you've succeeded. If they are not able to do so, or if they describe something completely different than what you thought you were sharing in your resume, then you have to go back and make some adjustments. For the positions that you're listing, do not list more than 4 relevant jobs. Normally, you would list the last 4 positions that you have. However, once you have more experience, you might just want to pick the 4 that are most relevant for that position. Do not use any type of logo of any kind. Don't try to use a little logo of like a tool that you've used or a little logo for the company that you work for. These type of logos just get in the system, get in the way of the systems that actually scan resumes, so they're not recommended to use. And they're also they distract you a lot from the important aspect. So you want people to focus on the content, not on those little things that might distract recruiters. Avoid flashy elements. Like sometimes I've seen people that try to put, in terms of skills, those little like circles that you fill. So you put, okay, Spanish, and then you fill like have the little circles, and then you don't know like why are some circles like one color, the other. It's just messy. So the simpler it is, the better it is. And then one last thing to remember is that your resume is a way to get your foot in the door. It is not an exhaustive list of everything you've done. So do not list everything you've done. Do not try to put, your entire life on your resume. That is not the point of your resume. Your resume is just to get you through the door. And once you get invited to a phone screen or an interview, you can elaborate on your tasks, your achievements, and everything you've done. So that's that. Let's move on to the Q&A, and let me share my camera so you guys can see me. Okay, so let's start.
Hello, ma'am. Welcome back.
Thanks.
It was an thrilling session, ma'am. Like All of us want to know like how to create such beautiful resumes, and everyone is no one is completely distinctive. Like people studying in their final year, people studying in their first year, everyone wants to know how to build a perfect resume to get a perfect job. And this session, I think it would have cleared a lot of people's doubt about making resumes. It was really insightful to learn about that. Moving on to Q and A's. Before actually we move on to Q and A's, ma'am, if you could like shed a little bit of a little bit of light on your time while you were a recruiter for Amazon. Like, how was that like? I guess
Sure.
many of us will be.
So being a recruiter at Amazon is a little bit crazy because we have I mean, you can imagine the amount of applications that we receive every single day for every position. But it's also an amazing company because every single day is different. You have projects, you have different initiatives that you are allowed to do and propose. So it was really great to recruit. Also, because they're such a big company and established company, their processes are already robust. So it's a really amazing way to learn about, the tools they use, the type of processes that are like best practice in terms of like HR or recruiting. So I was able to also learn a lot about that. And yeah, it was great. Amazon is great. It's also a very dynamic environment. You feel like you never stop, and that's also very cool for somebody that likes that type of environment. And it's also very collaborative, so I like that a lot. But
Wow.
feel free to ask me specific questions if you want to know more.
Ma'am,
If not, we can go back to questions.
is there any incident like we can actually learn from during your time there? Like maybe something like we should follow while we are sending out resumes to Amazon.
Yes. Okay. So one of the things that um, is like a rule is that you don't have to specifically, when you look at a job description, you don't necessarily have to fit all the requirements, all the basic qualifications, and all the preferred qualifications to apply. And this is normally the rule. The more you have, the better. But normally in any type of job, if you have most of them, that's enough to apply. So the only thing with Amazon is that because they receive so many applications and so many qualified candidates, you really want to make sure you are the right fit for the position and you have the most qualifications possible. Otherwise, they will for sure be other people that have stronger qualifications. So I would say that really study the job descriptions that you're applying to and really make sure that you fit that position and that is something that you would want to do. Sometimes a lot of people just, go on a website and apply just to everything they see. And that's not really a good practice. You really want to have a defined career path. And something for everybody to know as well is that recruiters in the back end can see everything you've applied to. So if you apply, let's say, to like a project manager position and then a product manager position and then a data scientist position and then HR manager, then this shows that you have no clear career path and it's not going to be in your favor if they see that you're just applying to everything, even though recruiters appreciate that you clearly have an interest in going to Amazon. It is not recommended that you just apply to everything you see. Apply to roles that are really connected and things that make sense with your background and your experience. And also talk to people, network with people that already work at Amazon and ask them, hey, like, how did you get there? Like, what sort of skills you need to get into that position? And you can tailor your resume for that position and have a better chance of being able to get hired for those positions.
Thank you, ma'am. With that, ma'am, we'll move to the Q&A section, and we have a first question from Karan Srikant.
Mhm.
He asks, "What should be the tone of the resume, active or passive?"
Definitely active. You want your sentences to be in active form, and like I mentioned before, start with an action verb, a strong verb. Try to make it varied, not using the same verbs always, and just make sure you put the best description you can of what you did.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is from Pradyum Verma, and he asked, "Should a fresher make a targeted resume or general?"
By fresher, you mean recently graduate? I'm
I
assuming.
think, ma'am, by fresher it means recently admitted to the graduation degree.
Okay. So I would say that a targeted resume is better. Always, you should always look at the job description that you are applying to and try to incorporate some of the keywords that they're looking for to your resume. For example, I can give you, in terms of myself for my resume, obviously I have a little bit more experience because I'm not a fresher, like you say. But if let's say I have experience in development and recruiting, but I'm applying to a development role, I'm going to highlight more my bullet points for the development role, and even my experience in recruiting, I'm going to put some of the bullet points tailored to what they are looking for. So it's always better to tailor it as much as you can. When you don't have as much experience, then you're going to have a more general resume, but every little tweak counts. So if you can even make small edits, that would be better.
Okay, ma'am. With that, the next question is from Vigyan Sarma, and he asks, "Well, hello, ma'am. What should be the most prerequisite for a resume for getting a job in top-notch product-based companies?"
Okay, so you mean skills, like what skills you should have?
I
I'm
guess so.
assuming. Okay, so like I mentioned before, you should really start studying the type of positions that you are going for. Start studying the profiles of people that have, your ideal job. Look at what they've done. Look at what type of skills they have. Um, Also important to do is study actually the companies that you're applying to. Look through their mission statement, their vision statement, the values that they have, and what they're looking for in people. A lot of big companies now actually have a section where they help uh, people that are applying understand, and they have videos of employees talking about what they do. They have resources for them, so make sure to do that and look at the skills that the job description is asking for, and look at several job descriptions. For product management, they might ask you for specific tools that you need. Depending if it's a collaborative environment, they're going to ask you for skills to have worked in a team, have worked with different types of people, have worked with technology. So just make sure you study several descriptions of the type of jobs you're looking for, and make a list of the skills that they are requiring for you to know how to tailor your resume. And also, if you are missing those skills, okay, how can I get those skills? How can I get those technological skills that I need? Either is it taking a course, or is it volunteering for a project online, or something like that.
Okay. With that, ma'am, the next question is from Arshiraj, and he asks, "Ma'am, in skill, should we write in which we mastered, or the things we only study?" Okay, I mean, I think he means he should write. Should he write the skills that he master or the things that he's currently studying? Because I see in your example resume there are a lot of skills.
So in this example resume that I saw, that person listed both like what they mastered and both what they're studying. If you are a current student or a recent graduate, it's okay to list some of the things that you studied. However, the problem with listing something that you might not know a lot about is that if it's a skill that is required for the position, then you might be in trouble if you don't know how to properly carry out that skill. Or if in the recruiting process they actually need people with the skill and you only have let's say, a medium level of the skill. So it's always better to list the skills that you've mastered, especially if it's more in terms of technology or something like that. If it's more on, like, let's say, I don't know, business development or things like that, or even tools that you are familiar with, sometimes it's good to list what you're familiar with. And you can list the level of, like, proficiency that you have with the skill. You can list the level of proficiency not only for languages but also for skills. So you can list, proficient in this tool, or beginner in this, or studying this, or things like that. But definitely, priority would be to list what you master. This is obviously harder to do if you are a recent grad.
Okay, ma'am. On the same lines, I think you have already. I think in this question you have already answered another one's question. Yash Parila asked how to write the skills that we are still learning. So I guess the answer would be to write the percentage you have already mastered in, like if you are intermediate or beginner or expert in that.
Yes. And also, I would say, if you are learning it, some people, as a recent graduate, you can also put underneath your education, like the courses that you've taken or that you're currently taking that might be relevant. Don't list, obviously, all the courses that you're taking, but things that could be relevant. Because this could be relevant, for example, if you're seeking an internship or things like that, whether maybe the mastery of the skill isn't needed, but just some sort of knowledge of the skill.
Okay. Ma'am, the next question is from Sayan Nath, and he wants to know, does Amazon recruits machine learning engineers as freshers?
Okay, so Cyan, this is a very specific question. I actually was not in the recruiting for, like, the tech area, so I have no idea. But I do know that there are a lot of positions at Amazon, so you'll just have to see the requirements. For some positions, you can actually see that they list the years of experience. So they might list, 2 years of experience in machine learning, or, minimum 1 year in that. If they don't list it, then I will assume that they could hire people that are recent graduates with that specific skill. But you really need to show that you're an expert in that, and that you're, like, the right fit for the position. But I'm sorry, I can't give you any more specific details because I did not recruit that.
That was a really specific question. Ma'am, the next question is from Manan Joshi, and he asks, apart from technical skills, what management skills or soft skills do a company look for?
So it's always important to have some sort of leadership skill, and this can be shown through different ways. Whether you led an initiative, you led a project, you led a team, and even if you've had experience in student organizations or student clubs, like, that's important. Also, I would say that communication is very important, and teamwork. Right now, right now more than ever, collaborative. Most positions are very collaborative, and it's important that you're able to work in a team and work with different types of people. So that's very important. And yeah, the leadership communication is always important to have.
Okay. Ma'am, Akash Sharma wants to know how to show hobbies on a resume. For example, I like watching YouTube videos. How do I put that in my resume?
Okay, so this is a very good question. If you have space on your resume, this would be like the last line of your resume, and you can just put interests. Like in the example that we saw where it said skills, you could just put it, like, below interests. And the only thing with interests is that be as specific as possible. So, watching YouTube videos is very general. So you could maybe put, like, what sort of YouTube videos do you like to watch? So, for example, I list that I like to listen to podcasts. Like, what kind of podcasts? I usually put, podcasts in leadership and HR. Like, be specific, because it also allow recruiters to connect with you. Try to obviously make your interest, like, true interest, but if you can tailor them a little bit to what you're applying to, that would also be helpful to the position. And don't be very generic, like, taking walks, like that's very generic, or watching movies, like that's very generic. Like, maybe put a specific type of movie. I don't know, watching comedies or something like that, because those are things that the recruiter could connect with you. And if it's very generic, then it'll be just something that everybody lists, and you don't want to be the same as everybody. You want to stand out.
Okay. Ma'am, we have a next question from Debayan Bakchi. He asks, this is somewhat off topic, and he wants to know, like, I am pursuing my MBA in HR as of now, but without work experience starting out. Should I try for MNCs where everything is set up, or try in startups where I learn by doing?
I would definitely recommend startups, because you can learn so much in startups, and maybe not necessarily startups, but small companies where not everything is set up. So you have much more hands on experience, and you're able to try different areas of HR. HR is very big. You have, compensation and benefits, you have payroll, you have recruiting. So many, you have development, you have training. So it's very big. So if you have the opportunity to work in a smaller company where you are able to work in more areas, not only will it develop a lot of skills, but also give you some guidance into what you would like to specialize in the future.
Okay, ma'am. The next question, Anchal Sau asks, do we need to mention how strong our particular skill is in the skill section, or is it better to just list them?
So I think we already answered this, but just to answer it again, it was definitely better to um, say how strong you are. If you just list it, then the recruiter will most likely assume that you master this skill. And if they need for some reason this skill, then they're going to assume that you have it. So either it would be better for you to list your level of it, or if you're only going to list the ones you master, then it's okay to just list them. Also, don't go crazy with your skills. Like, I've seen many resumes that have, list like 20 skills. Don't do that. That is crazy. I'm not saying you don't have 20 skills, but it's just very distracting for a recruiter to just see the list. And they also want you to actually put those skills in, like what the positions you have done or the activities, rather than just list them. So if you are going to list skills, I wouldn't list more than 5 or 6. That would be like the max that I would do in terms of like technical, for example. Or if you are going to put some like technical and soft, like a mix of that. And then, languages is obviously another thing, and like tools might be a little bit separate, but yeah.
Okay. Ma'am, the next question is from Amrit Dash, and he asks, a lot of people think maintaining a great LinkedIn profile is the same as having a resume. So, is it actually viable? Like, can I just download my LinkedIn profile and show it off as my resume?
Definitely no. Don't do this. Your resume should be the same as your LinkedIn, so they should match. Don't have a resume that is one thing and then you go to LinkedIn and it says something else. Don't do that. But do not download it off of LinkedIn. Have a separate resume, even though the information might be the same. When you download it from LinkedIn, it doesn't have like the right formatting. And for LinkedIn, since you have more space, you can list more information. So you can actually expand a little bit on some of the things you've done in LinkedIn. You can also separate like the activities or volunteering, so it's really good in that sense. But it should match in terms of your work experience, and general items should be the same. But don't download it from LinkedIn, like that. It's not recommended. So have a separate resume, even though they are going to be matching pretty much in terms of like content.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is from Kritip, and he asks, should we prefer more number of projects with short description, or a few project with a list little detailed explanation?
Okay, so that's a very good question. It is going to depend on the relevance of the project. So a recruiter is not gonna look at your resume and be like, "Oh, this guy has, 20 projects. That's great." Versus this one that only has 3. The content of what you put in the project is what's important. So pick the projects that are relevant to what you're applying to, and it would be better to have some of the most important projects and the one that have had the most impact. I think you probably work in a lot of projects and not everything is super relevant, or not everything is a very successful project. So definitely at least the ones that are most successful. And I would say, like, if they are very detailed and good, then you only need a few. You don't need to list a long list.
Okay. Uh, ma'am, there is a question from someone's piano channel. So, uh, what is the best way to apply for an internship, big tech company? Uh, I
Mhm.
think the relevant part of the question is how would I ensure that my resume is even read by the recruiter? Do they see every single CV?
Okay, so I mean, unfortunately, there isn't anything that is going to guarantee that they're going to see it, especially for big companies. They receive so many. But if you have a very good CV, if you have a very good fit for the position, then they will definitely read it. I would say that if you tailor it and you have some of the keywords from the job description in your resume, then in the when you describe what you've done, not just like listed somewhere, then it's better, because a lot of these companies use screening systems where a computer is the one that's like screening them. So that's better. If you are applying for big companies, cover letters are not usually read, so a cover letter might not help you. But if you're applying to medium companies or smaller companies, then a cover letter is a good way for you to set yourself apart and for you to tell the recruiter like why you're a good fit for the position. In terms of big companies, also, something that will help you get your CV through the door is have a referral, or have somebody in the company personally know the manager and be able to like recommend you. Obviously, this is not feasible for everyone, but it's a good advice anyway, that networking is super important. And if you are students or recent graduates, already start thinking about ways to network, because it's very important and it'll help you in the future.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is from Akash Sharma, and he wants to know how far do companies go in doing background checks on applicants? Like, what exactly do they look for?
Okay, so I can tell you from my experience, in Costa Rica, we did background checks in terms of asking for like a criminal records, and also the second part of the background checks would be your references. So this would be more for higher level positions, where they would call a couple of your references, and just ask, how this person was, like how they worked, whether there were any issues with them or not. So that is like the extent of the background check they do. There is also an international system where companies can check whether you're like in any like Interpol list or like criminal list, like that. But that is sort of like the type of background check that they do. This is also very specific to each country. I know in other countries, like they do um, more detailed background checks, but that's really gonna like depend on like the country that you're in, and also the
Okay,
type of position. Sometimes like entry level, they do like shorter background checks and not just not very detailed.
okay. Ma'am, the next question is from Kan Shrikant, and he asks, "What should be my go-to resume editor?"
Your go-to resume editor. So if you are gonna edit it in terms of like grammar or things like that, there are many tools online. Like Grammarly would be one, but also have people, different people, like read your resume, and if they're able to understand what you're trying to say, what you've achieved, then you're gonna know that your um that your resume is like good. Have people check it, and then use definitely one of those tools online that can check more specifically in terms of like grammar and spelling.
Okay. Ma'am, the next question is from Arpit Mishra, and he wants to know what soft skills should be included in my resume if I'm a student and want to get internships.
Okay, Arpit. So this will have to do with the type of job that you're looking for. If you are looking for internships that you need to work with people, then obviously, collaboration, teamwork is important. If you are looking for other types of internships that need specific skills, then just look at what they're requiring in the job description and try to tailor what you've done to that and include those skills in the description. Like I said, don't just list them. It's important to just include them in the bullets that you're writing in terms of just listing them.
Okay. Aditya Kumar Gupta wants to know: is it okay if someone don't have much development skills but have good skills in problem solving, like competitive programming or something? So how should one's resume look like? Like someone with these skills.
Yeah, that's very good. If you have those types of skills, you can put them through either like projects or also list them in your technical skills. It would be better if you can demonstrate like how you have them, whether you've used them in a skill, I mean in a project or in some sort of activity that you've done. It's perfectly fine because those are very useful skills to have, and some of the more different type of technical skills you can just get in a different way. So it's also important to list them, and I would say through projects or activities, that would be the best way to put them.
Okay. So, ma'am, Aman Sahu wants to know a simple, straightforward resume or one with a thesaurus enabled words, like as if to convey one's vocabulary. What should be a good option?
Okay, so in terms of how you write it, simple is always better. Don't try to sound, fancy or to write complicated words or phrases. Just be yourself, and the easier it is for the recruiter to understand what you did, the better. So I would say don't try to use complicated words to sound better. Just write what you did, and definitely use action verbs and be diverse in that. You don't want to have two sentences start the same. So don't put like develop blah blah and then develop blah blah. Like try to like put them differently, but don't try to sound like fancy. There's no need for that. Actually, simpler is better.
Okay. Ma'am, with that, I'll take one last question, which is from Akash Sharma. And he wants to know: do companies check social media profiles of applicants? Like, do they judge on the basis of social media activity?
So it depends on the company and the resources they have. Bigger companies don't actually have the time to do that. However, as a rule of thumb, all your social media should be private, because unless you're using your social media for some activity that, I don't know, you have like a business or something, then everything should be private, because some companies do check. And I have heard of cases where people have shared um, inappropriate things on their social media, and that was reason for them either to be taken off the candidate list or to have an offer like rescinded. So bigger companies don't take the time because it's just too time consuming to go over every applicant's social media. But a lot of companies do so, especially if you're a finalist for a position. So if you're just an applicant, probably not. But if you're a finalist, and let's say it's two candidates, they might do like as a background check to check on those things, just to make sure there aren't any like red flags. So definitely worry about what you're sharing, and if you want to just share whatever you want, then have it private so nobody can see what you've done. And then,
Okay.
yes, for all types of positions, it's sometimes like checked, especially a leadership position or a manager. So be careful what you're saying.
Okay. Ma'am, with that, I'll just take one last question. That's it, because that was a question I also have. Like, Kan Shrikant wants to know what I mean is what should be my resume building tool, or what document or something more in the lines of editor, or something like a Novo resume online platform where I'll just click and drag and drop and that's done.
Okay. So I mean, Word is completely fine when you are sharing your resume. You should be sharing it as a PDF anyway, so it doesn't actually matter like where you're sharing it. And Word is completely fine. There are some tools online that can help you build it, but you can, when you share it, you have to share it in PDF, so it doesn't really matter what type of tool you use to build it, as long as it's like clean and things. Most companies will accept PDF resumes, and if not, then that would be a little problem if they, for example, are asking for a Word document and you have it in another type of like platform. So that would just be the little caveat to have. But other than that, it's fine as long as it's, you know, a good format and you're following what they're asking. Sometimes certain job descriptions could actually ask for a specific format, but most just accept several types of formats.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. That was insightful. Actually, I was looking through the comments to find a really good question to close the Q&A session, but I guess uh, I guess I'll have a personal question to close it off.
Sure.
Ma'am, I actually want to know, like, personally facing, I have seen a lot of companies they do take video resumes instead of the fi- the resumes that we write down. So, what do you consider is a better option to convey my resume? Like, is it a written PDF one or it should be a video resume?
So I actually haven't worked with companies that take video resumes. I'm assuming that most of the ones that do maybe take them for more specific types of positions, maybe more like you know, marketing types of roles, like PR, or like more design roles, where you can really like showcase some of those skills you have. I would still consider that we are in a very like traditional type of like market yet, where, you know, normal resumes are better. However, if you are like applying to some company, where it's like a startup or they're actually encouraging you to do a video, then definitely use the video and make sure you stand out. But these are the sort of things that you can find easily in, you know, in chats online, like people comment on the recruiting process and things like that, so you can find out like what's better. Or you can also, you know, contact people that work there, like in their experience, and see what it's better for you. But it really depends on like the company. But still, most of the companies just require normal CV, so that would be fine.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. That was really great. With that, we have come to an end of today's session with ma'am here. On that note, ma'am, can I request you to join you with the screen so we could have a closing ceremony, sort of.
Sure. Join
Uh,
you where? Sorry. Oh yeah,
yeah, yeah,
sure. Also, I wanted to tell people that I put my LinkedIn in the beginning, so
yeah,
feel
yeah.
free to send me a request, and I'll be happy to connect with you.
People watching the stream, you can find ma'am's contact details in the description of this video. Please go and check it out. Drop ma'am a connection request. And with that note, it was really an honor to have you with us, ma'am. Those were some really great words you shared with us. Some really great knowledge that is definitely useful to everyone. Um this is the part of the uh, ceremony where I could have like felicitated with you with you by giving you some flowers or bouquet or something. But as we are doing this in a virtual scenario, I think that is not possible. Um Ma'am, I would like to do a signing off ceremony of how we do it in India. Are you up for it, ma'am?
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining.
Okay, ma'am. Can we do a small signing off ceremony of how we do sign offs in India?
Sure.
Are
So
you
what
up
am I
for?
supposed to do?
Okay, so we do something like this. We do our hands like this and we say namaste.
Okay. So namaste.
Okay, ma'am. That was really great. And if you could have any final words before you leave us.
I would say just you know, definitely work on your resume, trust yourself, share it with people, and if you need any help, like feel free to contact me, and I'll be happy to give you some extra tips.
Thank you, ma'am.
And
Thank you, ma'am.
shukriya.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, ma'am. It was an honor to have you with us. It was really great. And on that note, we'll just sign off by saying bye.
Thanks. Bye.
So, guys, that was today's session of Dev Talks with Miss Andrea, and it was a really great time to have her with us. And on that note, I'd say that yeah, the next our next webinar is on 6th May. That is tomorrow. So stay tuned for it, and do follow us on our social media platforms. You could see the handles on our description and on your screens right now. Do give a like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you stay tuned. Click on the bell icon to get notified of all our upcoming videos in the earliest manner possible. On that note, stay happy, stay chill, be indoors, take care, and have a good night.